Hello everybody. Project governance. I think that would be a useful topic to try to demystify based on some of your comments on the course. And it's true that there's a lot of jargon, boards, sponsors, charters, things like that. And it's easy to get lost in some of that. And you start Googling it and it can look really complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So what I would suggest, think about football or soccer. Project governance is like soccer or football. It's the referee. A referee is not playing the game. It's not the captain, not the players. The referee doesn't write the rules. The referee is taking a few critical decisions. The referee is the only person who can start and stop the game. They are not intervening all the time. They intervene as little as possible to make the game a success, to mark key moments like a goal or a penalty or a foul or something like that. And again, it's flexible. If you've got maybe just a couple of groups of friends playing, they probably don't need a referee. If you've got a cup final, you need a referee, linesman, and now there's video technology because the risks are higher. So again, it's the same. Project governance is like being a referee. So the question to ask is, who is the referee for your projects? Or if you're the referee, you're working with partners, grantees, how are you fulfilling the role of being the referee? So just remember that as we look at governance in a bit more detail. So governance then is about these key decisions, and you can have books. Well, there are books on project governance, but I mean, at its heart, it's making sure that the important decisions get taken quickly and appropriately. It's also about supporting and helping the project manager, and it's also about accountability. To illustrate this, a friend of mine has been the chair of a lot of different sorts of project boards, largely in IT. And he starts every board meeting with the same two questions. First, should we stop the project? If no, how do we help the project be successful? Question 2, should we fire the project manager? Panic. If not, how do we help her or him be successful? And if you think about it, those two questions are absolutely critical. And the project team isn't very unlikely to answer those. So this is an example of key decisions that need to be taken outside the project. And of course, there are always going to be more decisions. That's just a one example. There are always decisions that need to be taken, and that the project manager does not have the authority to take those decisions. So this is what project governance is all about. How do we do it? Two ways. Simple is you have a sponsor. That's one person, and the word has got nothing to do with money. But the project management term is a sponsor. The reason we try to teach some of the project management terminology is simply that you can continue learning after the course. You can Google project sponsor and you'll get a lot of information. It's one person, it's simple, it's easy, it's internal, but can the person fulfill the role? It depends on the project. If the project is too big, maybe not. As we said, you've got two teams of friends playing football on a Sunday afternoon. They might not need a referee, or one of them might volunteer to be the referee for that game. Cup final, more complicated. So you have a board, and a board is a group. It's 3, 4, 5. You don't want it to be too big. And in this, you're just trying to triangulate different perspectives and to make sure that the governance function is being fulfilled. You sometimes see terminology like the executive running, the organizational point of view, a supply point of view, a user point of view. There are a number of ways of doing it, but the principle of board is multiple perspectives which are being brought together and triangulated. Earlier I mentioned something that's also really important: the project manager's authority and the project management word, tolerances. What are the tolerances of the project manager? What can she or he do without asking for permission? But if they do need to ask for permission, this is where the governance structure can be useful. And once you have a structure, you can start planning. You can decide, okay, well, when are we going to have governance meetings? Every day? Probably not. Every week? Yeah, probably not. Every month? Maybe. Every quarter? Almost certainly. I also suggest having regular meetings and planning them, because again, this can be part of your control framework, especially if you tie this in to decision gates. Sometimes I see people say, oh, we'll only meet when there's a problem. It's really difficult to work well together if the only time you ever meet is to talk about a problem. So I don't see that, I haven't seen it work very well. So get your structure, be clear what the roles are, plan it, and then you will have an effective governance, decision-making structure for your projects. If you're working with others, if you have grantees or partners, well, think again, what are the decision-making processes? How do they bring decisions to you? What triggers that? Is it ad hoc? Is there a process? Again, how are you going to fulfill the role of being the referee for their project? I hope that helps. Bye for now.